What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. Should be a good one, this. We're going to be reviewing that Newcastle draw, previewing Bayern Munich, talking all things transfers, and also Daniel Levy's exclusive interview with Gary Neville on the overlap. A lot to discuss, as there always is with Tottenham Hotspur. So let's introduce tonight's panel. Firstly, Kyle, welcome back on. Talk to people a bit about what you do. And firstly as well, how are you doing?
Hi, Harry. Yeah, I've not been bad, thank you. I've said before, I'm a master's student at Lincoln University. Just trying to appear on as many podcasts as I possibly can over the summer because it is so boring without any lessons at the moment. So something to keep you busy. I'm really looking forward to this one. Thank you for having me.
No, lovely stuff. Thank you for coming on once again. Billie T, welcome back on the podcast. It's always great to have you on. People should know who you are, but if they don't, remind people. And also, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Just Billy_T on Twitter, and yeah, good. Been an emotional couple of days, right? So looking forward to getting into it.
Should be a good one. Thank you for giving us your time. Simon, welcome back on. I mean, it's always a pleasure joining us, I believe, from Sweden. How are you doing? And talk to people a bit, but as well about what you do.
Yeah, I'm Simon. Thank you for having me on again. I'm in Sweden, and that's true. I'm a director, TV series, stuff like that. Spurs fan. It's nothing. Pretty much everything you need to know of me. Yeah, that's it.
It's a good combo. No, thank you very much for coming on. Chris, thank you very much for coming on as well. Twice in quick concession. Look at that. Remind people what you do in terms of refereeing. I think it's highly fascinating, even if you don't yourself. And how are you doing as well?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. I don't do a lot. I used to do refereeing, so I used to work for the FA as a full-time referee coach a few years ago, but I don't do it anymore. But I still very that way. Like I view the game as a ref a lot, so I view it kind of differently to other people. But yeah, apart from that, just appear on the odd shows here and there and waffle on Twitter a little bit. I could talk about uni like Kyle, but it's 25 years since I left university, so a long time ago.
No comment. Thank you very much for all of you for coming on. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Let's get into it. I want to start with what I call in brackets transfers. We have to start with the legend himself, Heung-min Son. Carl, let's kick it off with you. I mean, can I get your thoughts on what we've seen in the last few days, him announcing that he's going, the goodbye that he received against Newcastle in that pre-season game? I mean, it's just all incredibly sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is gutting, but it's one of them where I think kind of needed to happen if we were to move forward. I think he got his fairy tale ending of leading the side to a trophy, something which he's been wanting to do for the last decade, and to do it in his last season and then play his final game in front of like his home country, like his home fans. I think just kind of caps off a real like beautiful 10 years that he's had at the club. I mean, he joined when I was 11 years old. I'm now 21. That's nearly half my life has involved. And I mean, with you, Harry, I mean, what, you would have been 6 when he joined, which is mental to think. Like that's a real big portion of your life has had him involved at Spurs. So it's going to be weird kind of seeing the squad for the upcoming Prem season without him in it. But I'm sure it's not the last we've really seen of Son at Tottenham. I'm sure in the future he'll be back in some way or another with an ambassador role, etc. Yeah,
he should be. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've never seen a Tottenham side that Son in it. Of course, I've seen him not play when he's been injured or in games that he hasn't featured, but he's always been like a registered Tottenham player, if that makes sense. So it feels really weird, absolutely. But nicely said, Kyle. Billy, do you think this is the perfect ending for him, though, to leave as a European champion and to leave, you know, in front of his home fans, South Korea? Just, it feels right, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. It definitely feels right. I feel like with all the big names that we've lost over the last, 5-10 years, like your Kane, Bale, Modric, there's always been like a tint of sadness about them because, none of them achieved anything at our football club, really. I've done a Carling Cup for a couple of them. And it's always been like, just before they ever won something meaningful at Tottenham. So for him to get to do it at Tottenham means that this is the first time where we're saying goodbye to this level of player, but it doesn't feel sad. It feels like, obviously it feels sad in some ways, but it feels like the right time. So it's not got that sort of, direct comparison to the Kane thing when he left. It's kind of felt there's a bit of bitterness there, a bit of resentment towards him for leaving, that kind of thing. But with Son, it's just like, I think everyone feels it's the right time.
Absolutely, thank you. Simon, I'll come to you next. Billy mentions Harry Kane. Is it sadder, would you say, than when Harry Kane left? I hate to be the one to ask that question, but if you had to choose which one, I suppose, pulls the heartstrings a little bit more?
I mean, if you're asking me, absolutely, it's a lot sad. But I think, none of us can speak for every fan out there. There's millions. So I think we all have different levels of connection, individual players. And to me, Son has always been my favorite. And I would say he's probably my favorite athlete that I've experienced and followed. So to me, it's absolutely a lot sadder. And I think connection for me, at least, it goes with it's more about his personality. It's how he carries himself, his smile, positivity, the way he's loyal to the club, the way he's treated other players, the way he speaks about the club, the way he speaks about fans. So so I think that's the personal, right? Then just the incredible moments he's given me throughout my time as a Spurs fan. I've been a Spurs fan for years, but these last 10 years has probably been when I've been the most engaged with the fan base and with the club, with social media and and just how my life turned out. And so Son has always been a big part of that. So absolutely, for me, it's no, it's a lot sadder for sure. I mean, Kane's also different. He's more his. I think it's if you are from London, then you've grown up around Tottenham. I think you have another level connection to players that grew up around those parts or came through the academy. I'm an international fan, so to me, having national player come in is also another part of that connection that I feel. And so, yeah, for me, it feels surreal, to be honest with you. I don't know really how to fight it all. I'm happy that he got to leave on a high with the trophy, but I'm incredibly sad that I'm not gonna be able to follow him day to day.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you've got some mic issues, but I think I can pick up what you were saying. So thank you very much, Simon. Chris, I'll come to you. What was your favourite Heung-min Son memory?
Oh, God, you've gone straight in with that. Can I not have the open opportunity?
Go on.
So only because I have to be careful how I come across a little bit, because unlike you guys, I was 34 when he signed. So I've seen a lot of players come and go, right? So I'm more sort of leaning towards what Billy said. I'm not that sad about it. Like, super thankful for everything he's done. He's been a brilliant player for us. But ultimately, it's a player who's not at this level anymore, leaving the club, right? So I'm not sad about that. I've seen, for me, it was worse when Kane left because he was a player at the peak of his powers and Son isn't. But in no way does that diminish from anything that anyone else has said. He seems like a blooming nice guy, given everything, absolutely everything for Spurs, and yeah, great for him to win a trophy. So going back to the question, what's my favourite Son moment? I'm not going to go with, I think the easy one is to say lifting the trophy. I suppose in a way that was, but I don't feel like he, if I'm honest, contributed a lot to us winning the Europa League last season. But the emotion of him lifting the trophy was nice, lovely, as it was yesterday with him. And that was great. And give some props to Newcastle players as well, like helping form a guard of honour. And by all accounts, none of that was planned. It was just all sort of off the cuff, which is really nice to see the respect he's got. I suppose I don't know, man. There's so many. I wasn't expecting the question, so I'm just trying to think of all the moments. Easy just to go to the Burnley game, I suppose. I was at that match. And yeah, I mean, it won the Puskas Award, didn't it? It was an amazing goal, but he's done so many things. And I'm going to pick out a different game. I'm going to change the question to what was maybe my favourite game. I think I'm just making my own questions up as I go along. Maybe the away leg in the quarter-final at Man City in the Champions League. I thought was absolutely outstanding. And those are the memories I want of Son, which is why I wouldn't have wanted to see him another year with him potentially just slowly decline in the way that Lloris did. So, yeah, I mean, the one thing, I was on a show the other night, we were arguing about, was he world class and all this kind of stuff, which is a very individual thing about your own definitions. But I think what is universal is that we're all super thankful to have seen such an amazing player, whether you want to label him as world class or whatever. He's been brilliant for us, and he goes with everybody's best wishes, doesn't he? I don't think there's one Spurs fan who doesn't like Son.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I want to get on to the next question. I think I know the answer, but there's a second part to it which should be interesting. Billy, I'll start with you if you don't mind. Firstly, is he a Tottenham Hotspur legend? And if so, where does he rank among the all-time greats or all-time Tottenham legends?
Oh yeah, he's without a doubt a Tottenham legend. I would personally say biggest of the modern era of Tottenham since probably like the 2000s, 90s, that kind of thing. Probably have to go back to the FA Cup winning team to get the similar stance of legend. I would say. I'd say he's the face of the modern Tottenham Hotspur is what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl, where does he rank among the all-time greats if you think he's a legend?
Well, I mean, I'll have to go off of my lifetime really, because if you asked my late granddad of his opinion of it, he would tell me he would either say Jimmy Greaves or Ricky Villa, Glenn Hoddle. But I was unfortunate to never see them play. So I would say for our like all modern history, he definitely ranks at the top. I would probably say he's a bigger Spurs legend than Harry Kane. That doesn't necessarily mean he was a better player than Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane was the better footballer. And I'd say he's probably the best footballer we have ever had. But I think that just the fact that he never entertained any transfer rumours, he was very quick to shut them down. He signed a new deal when everything was just going so wrong with Nuno, etc. It was a really turbulent time at the club. And for him to sign a new deal, I just think he bleeds Tottenham. He is Mr. Tottenham for me, really.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask the whole panel this question because I think it is the one that everyone has a different opinion on. Simon, I hope you sorted out your mic issues. And if you have, where do you think Son ranks among the all-time greats at Spurs?
I think I've sorted it out. Do you guys hear me?
Still doubling up.
Yeah, it's still doubling up, I'm afraid. So I'm happy to come back to you. Yeah, I'll let you sort that, Simon, and we'll come back to you in just a little bit. Chris, I'll come to you first. I did ask you the other day, but your opinion might have changed. You never know, and it might be slightly different. Where does Son rank for you among those greats?
Oh, no. Now, I was on a stream on a different channel a couple of days ago, and don't all jump at me at once. I said Son wasn't a legend, and I think I offended an entire continent in one go. So for the fear of being called an absolute flip-flop, I'm going to stick to what I said. But I don't think it changes. This is semantics in a way. I think we all have the same view of Son. As Carl said, Carl's influenced heavily by what he's seen. Right? I'm a lot older. And it all depends on what is your definition. I mean, I was on that stream and someone was reeling out people that they thought were legends and threw in Danny Rose. And I think, well, if that's the level, we're going to have 200 or 300 legends, right? For me personally, it's just about people who have achieved the absolute pinnacle. And I'm not knocking him, right? I think he's been absolutely brilliant. I have no different view of that. My personal view is that a legends clubs shouldn't have 40, 50, 60 legends. I think it slightly devalues the term for me only. So I think for me just comes in underneath that. But it is semantics. And in no way am I saying if you guys want to, like, I'm not here to say you're wrong, right? Everyone's entitled to their own view. I'm very much an outlier on this as well. It's just that I would say we've probably, in my view, I'd name 6 or 7 players in our history that would be legends. Other people will happily think it's more than that. I've got no issue with that at all. It's just a personal definition over what is a legend, really. But by no means, please, anyone watching this, don't interpret that in any way like I'm having a go at it. He's an amazing player. I don't think he's the best left winger in the Premier League that we've had, for example. So that's why I think for me, he just falls a little short. But I don't want to come across like I'm knocking him in any way. I'm absolutely not.
No, I appreciate you being honest. That's what we're all about here at the podcast, giving your opinion. So thank you, Chris. Simon, we'll try again, shall we? Third time lucky. Where does he rank Son for you among those all-time greats that you've already heard been discussed, and loads of players, Jimmy Greaves, etc. Where does he rank among them?
I don't know. It's hard. You guys hear me? Hard. I mean, I haven't seen some of these players that came before, but I think top five just back and just looking at when looking at who won big trophies. I mean it's Greece, Otto, Son. Who else? I mean, there's a few others ones that can that doesn't come to mind now. I think it's every generation needs to have their not needs, but every generation will have their own legends, especially if they actually win stuff and do big things in football. So I think looking back the last 20 years, I don't think that there's a lot of players that could say that they achieved more than and it is this European trophy that took him over the top. Looking at this in Europe in Premier League, I think he's second behind Salah in so goals and assists. I think he's close to top 10 all-time scorers in the league. He's got a Golden Boot. He's got a European trophy, and he's been here for 10 years. I think it's hard to kind of. Again, I'm with you, Chris. It's not up to me to tell other people what they should think, but to me, it's undoubtedly he's only the legend of my era.
I think you made a good point, Simon, which is when we're having this debate, I think we get focused on legend being one definitive term that we all have to agree to. I'm not sure that's the case. So Kyle thinks he's a legend, and Kyle's definition is perfectly acceptable, right? For me, I've got a different criteria. I don't think we have to definitively say yes or no. If it's yes for one person but not for another, I think that's okay.
Because I mean, if you live through Paulo and those years, it's natural that he's going to be your legend, the guy that gave you those things. But if you're 20 or 30 or maybe 40, which is pressing. But in my age bracket, Son's going to be up there among players who's doing that. He's the most at the club. The other players that you could see out Ben, Modric, Bale, but in terms of just being at the club, achieving good things, I think Son has to be up there. And then he's a legend in some ways, just the position he will have in our memories when we look at these years, and some will always be someone we'll mention with the good times, and going back to Poch up to Ange and now Frank.
100%. Thank you both of you for that.
I'm not having Ange as a legend, but that's a different debate for another day.
I'm just saying the eras.
Yeah.
Let's not start that. But maybe we get on to Daniel Levy's interview, because that was one of the quotes. So we'll save that for that maybe. Billie T, can I end with you on Son? I want to ask you if you could sum up in like a few words or a single word. What would it be?
Legend.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a good one. I like that one. It makes sense. I'd say, mine's two words. You could argue. I'd say Mr. Tottenham or something like that. Yeah, legend, anything like that. But no, thank you very much. Let's move on to João Palhinha, because we announced a signing of him on a loan from Bayern Munich with an option to buy. It's been announced. So, Kyle, firstly, can I start with you? Are you happy with this signing?
Yeah, I'm happy. I think he's a profile that we don't really have in our current midfielders. I trust him a lot more defensively, defensive-wise, than what I do Basuma and Bentancur. I think people online saying that he's not a great passer or he can't pass. They've automatically convinced like a lot of people that we've just signed like the B-Tech version of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who didn't have a great passing range. But he offers defensive solidity, especially when like we're in possession, and Frank likes his DM to maybe drop back into the back line, allowing the fullbacks to push up. 30 million option to buy as well is really not that bad for a player, considering as well. I think Bayern bought him for, I think it was around 52 on the season that he left Fulham. And again, like as well, between 2022 and 2023-24, he'd made most tackles, won the most tackles, and I got it here actually. Yeah, the most duels won in the entire league with 542. Fourth most interceptions in the entire league with 91. So I think, at the peak of his powers, he's had a few injury issues at Bayern Munich, but I think at the peak of his powers, he could really be a big asset to us. And he offers, like I said, defensive solidity that a lot of our current midfielders can't offer.
Totally agree with you. I think that was well said. So thank you very much, Carl, for that. Chris, are you happy with this signing? And if so, is it a statement sign in your eyes, or is that going a bit too far?
I might be going a bit far, but I agree with almost everything Carl just said, really. I think it makes so much sense. Brilliant player. I think a loan just makes perfect sense because I don't believe with the way we operate that we're going to drop any amount of money, frankly, on a 31 next year. He'll be 31. I just don't see that happening. But to bring him in for a season on loan, kind of no lose, really. Absolutely a profile we've desperately needed. His passing stats, actually, if you look at the metrics, everyone's obsessed by stats, aren't they, these days? His short-term passing is actually fine. It's his sort of progressive passing up the pitch, but that's not him, right? That's not what he's there for. He's there just to be a bit of an old-fashioned destroyer, we might have called him in my day, just to break things up and give it to someone who can progress the ball up the field. He's not going to do that for you, but I think he's a brilliant signing. Didn't work out for him at Bayern. I was listening to Kevin Hatchard last night, who's a commentator in the Bundesliga and a well-known pundit. And he was basically saying, he said he was Tuchel's guy. And they came in, if you remember, they came in for him in the January and it fell down at the very last minute and didn't go through. I think he was even pictured in Bayern tops and everything. For some reason, it didn't go through. So they agreed to do it in the summer, by which time Tuchel had left. So Company came in and he just wasn't for Company, really. And on top of that, he had injuries as well. So I don't, some people say he's like washed up, he's had a bad season. I don't think that's the case. I'm very hopeful. Yeah, I'm really, really hopeful we're going to see a player. I think he's a level above Højbjerg. I think we're going to see a player, the likes of which we haven't seen for a long time. I'm hoping he's going to be, I'm not going to say Dembele. I think I might be going too far because, oh God, I love Moussa Dembele. But maybe sort of a new Wanyama or someone like that. But we're going to be so much harder to beat this season. Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris. I totally agree with you and I agree with Carl as well. For me, the way I see it, I think this is a big sign. And if it's not a statement signing, it at least comes close to it because it just offers so much protection to the back line. How many times have all of us on this panel at different occasions gone that this Tottenham midfield, whoever it may be in recent years, or wonder whatever manager has been walked through like knife through butter, how many times do we give opponents space on the ball, time to think, play a pass, have a shot? That won't happen anymore. Paulinho is immense and he's 1v1s, destroyer, your blocker, whatever you want to label it as. And I still think he's got a lot to give. So, Billy, can I ask you, because Chris mentioned it, and I totally agree with him that I think it will make us harder to beat next season. Do you agree with that we just be harder to beat ultimately?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we were very easy to play against at times last season. And I think, he's obviously prioritising duels. I think Kudos is also, I think a couple of years ago when Paulinho was playing in the Premier League, they were the two of the top three duel winners. He also mentioned it in his team talk before the Arsenal game about winning duels. So I think it's obviously been a scouting profile metric that they've looked for. And I think it's badly needed as well. There's just too many times last season where one simple pass put us through the midfield and they're through on goal, the opposition through on goal. We saw it countless times last season. So, yeah, I think it's much, much needed. And I think we will definitely... And I think that Arsenal game gave you a good indication of the kind of thing that we'll see in the big games. Newcastle game maybe less so. I thought Newcastle got at us a little bit, as we'll talk about later on. But definitely think he's going to be prioritising dual winners.
100%. And Billy, can I ask you about this comment in the YouTube chat from Terry Wright, who says, Gray could learn a lot from Paulinho. It's a very smart short-term signing. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair thing to say. I think long-term, I think we're either going to use this season to embed Gray or I think we'll go in the market next season for someone like Wharton or Belieber. I think even long-term, I don't think Paulinho will be our number 6, but one of those, it'll either be Gray or a significant sign in there, I think, long-term. But, what better now? We saw him in the midfield yesterday, Archie Gray, so hopefully we'll use the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll get plenty of minutes rotating with Paulinho. So it'll be a good opportunity for Gray to definitely, he's got all the attributes. Didn't see him in midfield much last season, so it'd be good to see him in midfield again a bit more this season.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Billy. Simon, we'll come to you. Do you personally have any concerns about his passing ability?
And I would frame it like that. I would say I was probably one of those people that were a little bit critical of the link initially. Listen, when the deal was presented at the beginning, it was us buying him for 40 million or something like that, and I really didn't like that. I think a couple of ways you can look at this. I think look at how Frank wants to set up. He's a lot more defensive, and to buy someone like Palinia on a long-term contract with age and with the salaries he was on, I thought that was a bad idea because the way I looked at the squad with a kind of double pivot and a lot more conservative and with the mindset of being more defensively solid, we've seen in these preseason games. I thought we needed a different type of six. So I needed someone that would help progress the ball. Because you could see in these games that some have hard time to progress the ball pitch. So I had other sixes that I thought would fit us better age, long term profile wise, would fit us better. But short term loan, considering us having Champions League, considering the amounts of games we have, considering how young Bergvall and Gray are, considering that we will focus more on dead ball situations and corners and getting those through those type of situations, I definitely see the value. And so my criticism was not about what he is, because I think he's excellent what he is. It was more about, okay, what are we gonna do this other part of the thing that we need from this playing midfielder. So I think this could still be something that we will see us aim at later on in the transfer window. If like for example, if we have Morgan Gibbs White in, and then Sakalina on a loan, that would have made me really excited to see him playing with deep playing playmaker, have someone like Mason or Kudus further up the pitch, or Kulusevski further up the pitch. So yeah, I'm optimistic about the loan. I think it'd be brilliant, but I'm hoping that this is just a 1 year loan, and we'll go for someone, or at least this is it. Someone is just the first phase of rebuilding this midfield, because you have to remember we also have Uma and Bit on contract expiring, and haven't heard anything new about this extension. Those two are leaving, then it makes even more sense.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon, for that. Appreciate your input. Let's move on to actually tell you what, Chris. I'm going to ask you a last question. To play devil's advocate, he's just turned 30 years of age. And when that option to buy, as you said yourself, kicks in next year, he'll be 31. Some will say that that's unambitious and we should have gone for someone younger, maybe like Adam Walton, and really splash the cash. What do you make of those kind of claims, if you like? Can you understand why they see it as unambitious? You're on mute, Chris.
Sorry, I forgot I muted myself because my dog was barking. But yeah. So to a point, yes. But what it does do in the short term is it enables us to do two things. One, spend that transfer money elsewhere, that maybe a left winger or a central attacking midfielder now, probably. But also, as Terry Wright said in the chat, really, it gives Gray a chance, and the other midfielders as well, to be fair, to learn off a seasoned pro. And it gives us a bit of breathing space. We can see how Gray develops now over the next few months. Is Gray going to turn into this amazing defensive midfielder? I have my doubts personally, but I hope I'm proven wrong. And if it doesn't look like he will, then we've got the opportunity come next summer to either make Palhinha's transfer permanent. I think that would be the most un-Tottenham-like transfer I've possibly ever seen. So I think it's really unlikely. I wouldn't be against it, though, if he's performing at a high level, because 31 these days, you probably get another 3 years out of him. So I wouldn't be against it, but I think Daniel Levy would. But if we're not developing our own within the club and we don't want to make it permanent, then next season we can see where we are. We can plan for that window, and whether it's Wharton or whoever else, we can bring someone in then for the long term. So I think utilising loans here we might have to do it in some other positions as well for the rest of this month. You can't just go out and buy 60, 70 million pound players in every position, certainly not if you're Tottenham anyway. So utilising the loan market to get someone of his quality in the loan market, I think it's a really smart move. Quite an un-Tottenham-like move, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And let's just see. I think that criticism needs to be put on hold a little bit to see how the rest of the window transpires. If we don't bring anyone else in, then maybe that's a fair criticism. Maybe we could have just gone and bought our long-term replacement for that position. But let's just see how it pans out. We've got a few weeks left yet.
Yeah, we have indeed. Thank goodness. Thank you very much. Let's move on to Mikey Moore, who joined Rangers and what is apparently a straight loan. Carl, we'll kick it off with you again. What are your thoughts? Is this a move that maybe makes sense for all parties?
Yeah, it makes sense because obviously with Rangers, you'd expect them to be competing in some sort of European competition. I think they're going through like the qualifying stages at the moment, but let's say in an ideal world, they do end up qualifying for Europe and competing in whichever competition. With their rivalry with Celtic each year, he's going into an environment that has a winning culture and that kind of drive of having to win every single week. Like there's no complacency really. So I think that'll do him the world of good as well coming back. It's a physical league. Like you would probably say that it's probably just as physical as what the Championship would be, whilst being able to offer European experience. And as well, he said himself that his family really like Rangers, and he himself really likes Rangers. So you would think that it would be an environment that he's happy to go to, because I think for so long Spurs have been getting loans really wrong. Whether it be, the players unhappy there, the manager doesn't really rate them, so doesn't give them much game time. We've just not been too good at finding the right loans for our youth players. Obviously, there are a few exceptions with like Vuskovic. He had a great loan at Westerlo, but one that springs to mind is Billie T. Like his 2 loans away in Spain just really didn't do too much for him. So I think all in all, I'm excited for this loan, and I think it will do him the world of good for us next season.
Okay, thank you very much. Simon, can I bring you in on this one? Do you think
Can
Mikey
you hear
Moore
me?
I can, loud and clear. That's good. A lot better. Let's hope it lasts. Do you think Mikey Moore will be a regular starter for Rangers, or do you just see him as maybe an impact substitution who maybe impresses and gets more of a chance for Rangers?
Oh my God, I have no idea. I have no real knowledge about the size and quality of that squad. I'm guessing that he was promised some kind of playing time going there. And I heard an interview with the coach, and it sounded like he was really excited about getting him in, and he was excited about more being excited to be there. So my guess is that he's going to be featuring quite a lot, but you never know with those, right? It's always a risk and a chance, and so I don't really know, but I really hope so, because I think he's good enough.
Totally agree with you on that one. Billy, what do you think about this move? Do you think it's one that will really help Mikey Moore in his development, as sad as it is not to have him for this season?
Yeah, I hope so, mate. I know that I've seen a few concerns on Twitter that Rangers already have quite a decent left winger, so I'm not sure how much game time he'll get. But I don't really know. I can't profess to know anything about Rangers squad, to be honest. So I don't know how true that is. I hope that he gets plenty of minutes. Be a really good atmosphere every week at Ibrox, playing in Europe. So yeah, it should be really, really good. I hope he gets a lot of minutes though, because I think
play in Europe.
Yeah.
That's good.
They're in a qualifying at the moment for Champions League, so I don't think they're completely qualified yet. But when he comes back, I think it'll be time to start putting him in around the first team. So I think it's a big year for him.
Totally agree with that. Let's move on to now our next topic, which is Daniel Levy's interview. So he sat down with Gary Neville from the Overlap. It was released today. I haven't seen it all myself, just little bits, in particular, like little clips and quotes. So I'm going to read you 5 or 6 main quotes for anyone who hasn't seen it, and then we're going to dissect Just a few, 2 or 3 of them. So firstly, Daniel Levy talked about the protests organised from Change for Tottenham against him and the board. He said it hurts, but insists their pain is also his pain. He said, of course it hurts, but their pain is also my pain. I want to win, and when we're not playing well and we're not winning, believe me, I suffer as well. It ruins the whole weekend when we don't win. It's horrible. You're in this to win, and when you don't, it's no fun. Next, Daniel Levy spoke about his ultimate decision to sack Ange Postecoglou, which sits with him but insists it's a collective board decision. He said, we have a group of technical staff and they advise. We had to explain the decision to part ways with Ange in the club statement. Ange just won us a trophy, a European trophy, highly significant, and he's always going to be in our history. However, we couldn't lose sight of the fact that we finished 17th in the league. We lost 22 Premier League games. It's impossible for Tottenham to be in that position, and so we had to take the emotion out of it, and we had to give some data points as to why we decided to do what we did. Whichever level you do it, no one likes telling somebody you're losing your job, but it's the nature of football. We're there to win, and yes, we won a European trophy, and it was fantastic. We also need to win on all fronts, and the Premier League says it all. Next quote is from Daniel Levy about Thomas Frank wanting him to win the league. He said Thomas Frank is a highly intelligent individual. He's got a fantastic way about him in terms of communication. He'll be great at developing both young players and older players and making them better. We haven't set him. You're going to win the league this year. We just want to compete at the highest level. We will support him to the best of our ability. If you look at transfer fees, we've been in the top 4 spenders since the stadium opened. We've spent close to 700 million net on new players. This isn't just about money. This is about some luck, having the right balance in the team, having the right coach. There's a lot of things that have to come together nicely. Daniel Levy said, yes, it has to be winning the Europa League. That has to be the best night for me as chairman of Tottenham. When we came back to the stadium and did the parade a few days later, the outpouring of emotion was amazing for everyone to see around the world. Daniel Levy has firmly insisted he does not interfere with the football side of Tottenham Hotspur. This one's interesting. He says, I do not interfere at all in the decision-making of a player versus that player. It's always the coach, always the technical staff. The only thing I get involved in is when they decide which player they want to buy, for instance, or which player they want to sell. I will go out and do my very best for this football club. I'm not interfering with the football decisions. Next, Daniel Levy talks about clubs overspending and about sustainability. He said, I wouldn't say that spending of other clubs is crazy. It's not sustainable, which is why they end up with problems. We all know that if everyone overspends, it's a zero-sum game because no one benefits from it. I think there's been rules and people need to stick to them. If you look at what we've done, we haven't had someone pumping hundreds of millions into the club. We've done it all on our own. We've been entrepreneurial and have increased our revenues to enable us to compete like we can today. One of the biggest threats is related party sponsorships. That's the area that has to be controlled because if you end up having clubs that are owned by states, which I have no issue with, they can do deals with themselves and that can put them in competitive advantage over everyone else. That's an area that must be looked into. Multi-club ownership is another issue that is very important today because it didn't really exist 5 years ago. The idea that one club is involved in lots of different clubs with the money involved today must be controlled carefully. We have financially controlled measures and it can be abused. It worries me a little because there's so much money in the game now and you only need one owner to do something inappropriate and it would impact confidence from sponsors and broadcasters in the European game. It needs to be tightly controlled. Next, Daniel Levy spoke about the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which he thinks will go down as his greatest achievement. He believes he'll not be given any credit for it, though, until he leaves the club. He said, the construction of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is my greatest achievement, and I'm not doing it again. This stadium is a symbol of Tottenham Hotspur on the global map. It was luck. We hit the market at the right time. Interest rates were low, so we managed to borrow 35-year-old money, just over 2.5%. This stadium today to build is probably going to cost more than 2 billion, which is 1 billion more than it cost us. I think it's one of those situations where I'm not here, don't think I'll get the credit. When you come here and look at this wonderful building and the fact that other clubs are now trying to copy what we're doing, that should be a sign that maybe we're doing something bold and also something right. That's really interesting. We'll definitely come back to that one. And the final one is about Thomas Frank. He said, we will support him to the best of our ability. I very much hope that Thomas will bring all the right ingredients and bring this team to where it belongs, which is right at the very top. We need to compete at the highest level. We need to consistently be trying to win trophies. That's what it's all about. So those are the quotes. I'm going to pick some for you individually. If you don't mind, Billy, I'd like to start with you. I want to talk about the one to do with the protests, change for Tottenham. So just to read that again, he said, "Of course it hurts, but their pain is also my pain. I want to win, and when we're not playing well, we're not winning. Believe me, I suffer as well. It ruins the whole weekend. When we don't win, it's horrible. You're in this to win, and when you don't, it's no fun." So Levy acknowledges some pain for these protests. Does that suggest to you that they're working?
I think the only thing that would suggest that they were working would be if they, reacted in sort of creating the sort of level of ambition that he talks about in the video. I think, words are really easy to say that, they don't necessarily mean anything. I think a lot of that video was kind of very diplomatic answers. Didn't really learn loads from him. There wasn't anything there that was like sensational. Wow, I can't believe he just said that or anything like that. It was the kind of stuff that we've heard from him many times before. I think the only way that the protest would ever be proven as working is if, Tottenham go and spend in line with what we all want them to spend with, and continually compete at the top, which is what he says he wants to do now. So now it's time to put his money where his mouth is, really, and create a football team that does that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Simon, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to read the one about Ange Postecoglou. I think that's appropriate for you with your love for Ange. So I'm going to read it out again. So this is Daniel Levy speaking about the decision to sack Ange Postecoglou. He said, "Ultimately, the decision sits with me, but it's always a collective decision. We have a board of directors, but under the board, we have a group of technical staff and they advise. We had to explain in the club statement the decision to part ways with Ange. Ange just won us a European trophy, highly significant, and he's always going to be in our history. However, we couldn't lose sight of the fact that we finished 17th in the league. We lost 22 Premier League games. It's impossible for Tottenham to be in that position. So we had to take the emotion out of it. We had to give some data points as to why we decided to do what we did. Whichever level you're at, no one likes telling someone you're losing your job, but it's the nature of football. We're there to win, and yes, we won a European trophy, and it was fantastic, but we also need to win on all fronts, and the Premier League says it all." Simon, your thoughts on that?
Can something be 100% true and 100% bullshit at the same time? Because I think that's what we just heard. It's always true what it's saying. It's not just his decision. He will listen to a lot of people, but it is also his decision. He's the guy that decides what their main priorities are at the club. Now, I think this decision is special because I think both keeping him, you could make an argument for both keeping him and not keeping him, because they chose the latter, and I think the reasons he lay out there are perfectly valid, and I think a lot of fans agreed with it, even though they loved what he achieved. I mean, I wanted us to keep him for a host of other reasons. Now, listening to this interview, I want to go back to a little bit what Billy said and this answer as well. I think, one, it's good. The most interesting part about this is that he did this interview. And I feel like it's Vinay in there, the fact that we've gotten 2 interviews with him. And the second part is that we've asked for more communication with fans, from Levy, from their board, from everyone involved, besides the coach. So I have to applaud them and the new people that have come in that have pushed for this. I do agree with Billy. I think a lot of the things we hear are, I mean, it's the usual thing. It's very political. It's very careful. It's smart people, choosing their words very carefully, and we've heard it all before. So it's in the action that we see that we will be able to judge him. Now, I think this trophy that we won is basically someone that threw away the reasoning that we've seen from the club and actually risked something. And that's my biggest issue with Levy and the way he talks about all these stuff. He's very risk averse. He likes to talk about, how much we spend, but he always spends, he's always pretty risk averse with how much he spends on what. It's pretty slow. We've seen it this window. We saw it the window before. So it doesn't give me a lot of, comfort that he's going to change up his behavior. And he also sounds a little bit old school here. He sounds like he's riling against, the changes and the development in the game. And there's a lot of things in the game in terms of finances and multi-club ownership that I also don't like, but those are the things that other clubs use now to win. And so his priority to be sustainable and to be risk averse and to build slowly, and that coming, that being more important than everything else is something that you see mirrored in the decision to sack Ange. That the fact that he won this trophy, he likes to talk about it, but you notice that it's not the most important thing. He failed at what was the most important thing, which is to be financially stable, to perform in the league. So top four and a deep run is more important than winning something and losing money. So it was more of the same in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, no, totally agree with that. Thank you, Simon. Chris, can I ask you about that exact same quote from Daniel Levy? Because I know you feel a bit differently about Ange Postecoglou. So your thoughts on what Simon said, also what Daniel Levy had to say about Ange, as you said, as Simon said, that it is a lot of what we already have heard from Levy and what we kind of knew that he was going to say.
Yeah, I don't want to focus on Ange too much. Simon's put it forward quite well, I thought, which is different people had different opinions. Simon was of the view that he wanted to keep him. I can understand the argument. I don't. For me, I was on the other side of the fence. I think the only thing I would say is that we've seen from what Levy said today that this idea that there was any agreement that we'd sacrifice the league clearly just isn't the case at all. I was of the view right from the start that there's no way Levy would accept that, and I think that's clear today that it wasn't acceptable. So on Ange, I back him. To be honest, on the whole thing, I actually thought he came across all right. I don't have an issue with almost anything he said. I find it interesting when you look on Twitter. I mean, Twitter's an interesting place, right? But the meltdown that's gone on, because what did anyone expect? I think you've got to bear in mind that whenever Levy does anything, he's going to have sign off, right? And he's going to reviewed it and have all of his sort of legal team and PR team all going to have looked at it before they agree for it to go out. So people going mad about Neville didn't ask this, that, or the other. Well, I mean, maybe he did, but there's no way Levy's going to agree to an interview that then makes him look bad. It's just crazy to think that he ever would. So I have no issue with anything he said. Thought he came across quite well. I think at times as a fan base, look, I am of the view that it's time to move on. But I'm not a big fan of the people who just blame Levy for absolutely everything, no matter what. I think he has done some good things. I think he puts forward pretty well the good things he's done. I think what there was, though, and I think Billy will probably agree with me on this, it was nothing about what he said today. It was about what he didn't say, really. There was a few contradictions in there a little bit, but what he said sounds fine. And he's right. You can't argue with the amount of money and all that kind of stuff that we've spent, but you just scratch a little bit deeper underneath that. And then you look at the profile of players we're getting in, the amount we're paying them at the wages and all that kind of stuff. And we didn't touch on any of that, did we? Which I understand. I understand it's an uncomfortable topic for Levy, so he's probably not going to discuss that. There was also some other inconsistencies. On the one hand, he's completely against government intervention in terms of regulation, but on the other hand, he wanted the government to intervene to help out with the infrastructure around Tottenham. I'm like, well, which, he wants to have his cake and eat it. Of course he does. But yeah.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to say, I think what you're saying here is perfectly something I wish we would say and talk about more. It's so easy to paint him as this evil, dehumanize him into some person that is an idiot or an evil baron or whatever, but he's just a bloke, right? And he has this way that he's built the club, and you can often be annoyed. I'm annoyed with his approach, but I also understand it's just his personality. He's risk averse. He wants to have his facts straight. He wants to build slowly, and that sometimes isn't the best way to run a club. It's sometimes a great way to run a business, which we see, but it's just how he is, and he's just a bloke. And I think he meant everything he said. It's just like what Chris said. If you just wish he had more people to kind of challenge him and kind of, help him challenge him to change his way or to scratch beneath the surface or to look at these things that he that he likes to ignore, likes to not acknowledge. And so he's just a bloke, right? So I think he's imperfect, and I wish we'd talk about him more like that, because he's not. Sometimes I get really uncomfortable with the way he's criticized. The way
I actually have some sympathy for him to a point, which is you're absolutely right. Like, to run a business, like if I've got a business that I'm not a fanatical fan of, I just want to make money. Like, I'd love Daniel Levy to come in and run it. And if everybody played by the rules, I think we'd have an absolutely unbelievable guy for the football side as well. But there's just 2 points. One, people don't play by the rules, and therefore we are left behind.
Yeah,
that's an individual opinion then about are you comfortable with Tottenham doing the same thing? Because I don't really agree with him when he says, all of this is going to level out in a few years' time. I'm not sure it will. And I think those who want to play by the rules, it's admirable, but will probably always be slightly left behind. And there was another point that's I've gone out of my head, but it will come back.
The thing, I want him to engage more with fans. I want him to do more interviews, and that's why I'm a bit, I want people to think about how they talk about him and what they say and how they approach him, because I feel like stuff like Billy has this great, organization, and you want him to engage with that organization. And if we speak about him with more care and with more poignant criticisms, I think it's easier for him to kind of come out of his shell without being forced and do these really controlled interviews. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you both of you for a nice little discussion there. Who would have thought it? Someone who wanted Ange in, someone who wanted Ange out, can get on and have a decent conversation. I love it. Not even turn it into debate. Thank you for being part of that. Carl, I'll come to you. Last thing that I want to read out, the one that I've chosen, is to do with Daniel Levy's biggest achievement being the new stadium. So I'm going to read out the quote again and come to you. Daniel Levy said, "The construction of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is my greatest achievement, and I'm not doing it again. The stadium is a symbol of Tottenham Hotspur on a global map. It was luck. We hit the market at the right time. Interest rates were low, so we managed to borrow 35-year money at just over 2.5%. This stadium today to build is probably more than £2 billion. I think it's one of those situations where I'm not here. I'm sure I'll get the credit. When you come here and look at this wonderful building and the fact that other clubs are now trying to copy what we're doing, that should be a sign that maybe we did do something bold and something right. I mean, the figure is absolutely outstanding. We all know how price has gone up, whatever you're talking about, but 1 billion to 2 billion is a big jump, firstly, Carl. But also, do you agree with Daniel Levy that maybe is his biggest achievement as Tottenham chairman?
God, I mean, probably, considering that was like the Europa League is his second trophy that he's won with us since being at the helm. I'm not really sure I agree with the whole thing where he said I'll be remembered or thanked for after I've left here, because it's like I don't really think you should be given credit for doing something that a top 6 club should be doing whilst at a top 6 club. It's like, I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but it's like you're kind of expected to act in that way if you want to compete with the others. I mean, Arsenal with the Emirates, for example, Man City with the Etihad, they've all expanded and got bigger stadiums, and I think that it doesn't really deserve credit for him to also do that. And again, it's a beautiful stadium. And in my eyes, it is the best stadium in the world, or probably that along with maybe the Allianz Arena, right? But I just think as well, like it makes that much money, and we are spending a lot of money on transfers, like we've already said before. But the transfer fees have never really been like the problem. We spend a lot of money. It's the wages, which obviously will take a while to kind of structure, because you can't just sign one player offering them 300 grand a week and then the second highest earner being 160 grand a week, because it will cause absolute carnage with all the other players going, why is he earning double me, 3 times the amount as me? So it will take a while, which I understand it takes a while to kind of set these things in stone. But I just can't really agree with the whole thing where he said, "Oh, I'll be thanked or remembered more fondly once I've left," because it's like you're doing your job as a you're doing your job as a chairman, which is to make the club bigger and better. And I don't, whilst as well giving himself a pay rise, I don't really think that deserves as much credit as what he thinks that it should. I don't know.
No, he certainly did. Well, I think he's happy with himself. It's fair to say. I mean, I don't know why, but that's how he feels. That's how he feels. Totally agree with you, Carl. Thank you. I just still can't get my head around $1 billion more it would have cost in Daniel Levy's opinion. Do you know what? He's probably right as well. I can't get my head around that. I mean, I can get $1 million to $2 million, things like that, and even like if he said, "Oh, it would have cost $500 million more," but a whole billion. It's just absolutely insane. So good job with the timing on that. And the last thing I want to pick up that for myself to comment on that Levy said was about Frank bringing the ingredients. Well, in my opinion, those ingredients should be supplied by Daniel Levy and the board. And it's about Frank's role to develop that ingredients and come up with this recipe, this winning formula that comes together and use it for a cooking point of view, really impresses the table when we go to MasterChef and beats other competitors. That's what it's about. He's expecting Frank. He just can't say. I know luck is some of it, but he's sitting there going that a large part of winning the Premier League will be down to luck. It's about the right time, and of course, little parts come into that. But if you sit back and go, "We're doing a good," because I got from the interview, I thought he come across well, by the way, Thursday to say I do agree with that. If you sit back and go, "Yeah, we're spending 700 million net on players since we joined the stadium." The way you come across is that everything he's doing is about giving Frank the tools. That suggests to me he's not going to go out his way and do anything more. Well, then we just finished 17th again. That's the way I look at it. You're not going to improve. How are you going to go forward? And he's all of a sudden, because he will deep down, and he did admit it. The aim is for Frank to win the Premier League eventually. He said, "Oh, not this season, but that is the aim." Well, how can you win the Premier League if you don't supply the tools?
It's like what Chris said. Like, yes, we've spent money, but our best player is probably Romero now, right? It's on 180 grand a week. The best player at Chelsea, or the best player at Manchester United, or the best player at Arsenal is probably on twice as much. So that's the real difference. So, like,
actually, don't think. Sorry, I was just going to quickly say I don't think necessarily it's about the top salary. It's about the density of how many players are we willing to give that sort of money.
Yeah.
And we have hardly any above. I think 4, 5 above 100 grand.
Yeah, it's just an example. It's this magic trick of bringing up this thing while thinking people won't notice this other thing. I mean, it's what it is. It's him doing, it's him having these talking points that he keeps repeating, and not getting a real journalist or someone with free space to just really dig into those questions and follow up and go deep into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with that is any journalist that ever does, he'd just veto unless it was live, obviously, but then he'd never agree to it, would he? So I don't think we'll ever get these answers that we want.
No.
No, probably been recorded for at least a couple of weeks now, I think, and been deep into editing. But I don't know. Another thing I find bonkers quickly is as well why you don't pay that kind of salary or change the wage structure, which for me hinders and stops you achieving sustained success, which apparently is Levy's goal. But you're happily, throw no disrespect to the players I'm going to mention, but 60 million at Richarlison, or even like 25 million for Gil, and we give quite a valuable asset away in Eric Lamela, or at the time record transfer fee for Ndomble, or Lascelles say you've been injured for a year, but here you go, 40 million. I can't get that. You'll do that, but you won't pay a few thousand extra a week to attract and retain players. I think we're very lucky that Romero, that clearly has already formed a good relationship with Frank, very happy with the club. But there's another situation he could have walked away. And I know we've got strength and depth in that area with Danso, Dragusin, Vuskovic, but still would have left a little bit of a problem. So I think we're always at this football club, in my opinion, going to have a problem with retaining and attracting top talent. Okay, Paulini has come to Tottenham, fantastic. He had a good meeting with Thomas Frank, but why aren't we in talks with players like Eze, Simmons? Why is it all about wanting to go to Chelsea? I think players are more money motivated than we think. Of course, Tottenham's still an attractive destination, not one of those clubs that thinks, who would want to come to Tottenham? I'm not one of those fans. I can't say that about my club, but we need to be more attractive. And sad thing is, the more money you pay, the more attractive you are. And you can't attract Eze if he's going to earn random figure here, but he's not going to earn this. But let's say, I don't know, 200 grand a week at Arsenal. We come to Tottenham, we'd be okay, 90 if you're lucky. Then that's a big factor in a player's decision, in my opinion. But don't get me started.
That luck comment, I think, is really telling, because I think we've all talked about how the expectation at Spurs is to overachieve, right? So if you look at the spending we've done these last 10 years, it's through luck and overachievement we got a Champions League final. It's through luck and overachievement that we got a European trophy. So in his mind, it's probably working. He spends low, and then every couple 5-10 years he'll get something out of it. So in his mind, is probably thinking, yeah, this is working. I'm building something.
I think what's a bit uncomfortable for Levy, I feel like I might be tossing a ball up here for Billy to hit a home run, but I sort of agree with Levy. I mean, if we take what he says, that he's not involved in the player ID, maybe we have spent money and we've spent it really badly, but ultimately, who employs those people? And that's the big problem for me. We can sit there and go, well, actually, our talent ID has been appalling over the last few years. Okay, but who's accountable for that? Who's the one who said, I'm going to go out and get a Lang, or I'm going to get a Steve Hitchin, or whoever? And ultimately, that's a question I'd like to see him answer, but he's never going to do that.
No, it's so true that. We move on now to pre-season, dissecting that Newcastle result, which ended 1-1 over in Seoul in South Korea, for people who didn't see the result. So let's start with the lineup. So people who didn't see it, the lineup was Kinski, backline of Porro, Danso, Romero and Davis, Gray, Sarr and Bentancur, and Johnson, Telson, maybe something not identical, of course. I thought there'd be lots of changes, but a little bit closer to what we maybe see against Burnley. Carl, what were your thoughts of the lineup when it came out at the time? Any surprises in there for you?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the game because I was at work. So I've watched quite a few highlights on the game. But the initial lineup was interesting to see Davis feature, purely because I thought that he maybe wouldn't play as big of a part going forward. But then obviously with the news coming out today from Alistair Gold saying that Vuskovic was, he looks like he could head out on loan. Maybe that's why he featured a bit more. But to be honest, I'm not really surprised by I wasn't surprised by the midfield really, particularly because obviously Sarr's been having such a good pre-season. He looks like a completely different player the last couple of weeks. And with Gray, who I'm sure we'll probably touch on a bit later on, but he had a really good game. So no surprises really, no.
Thank you. I'm not surprised with that. Billy, can I come to you next? A goal came early for us in the game. 4th minute through Brendan Johnson. It's a really good finish from Brendan. It's hard to really describe. Maybe I'd say guided it into the bottom corner.
Yeah, and he's obviously not known for scoring outside the box for us. Definitely is a back post merchant for us. But it's a different kind of goal for him. But continues scoring as he did all of our season as well. So I hope it continues into this season. And I think on the lineup, there weren't really many surprises. The one thing that I think is a big talking point at the moment, I couldn't tell you which way it's going to go, is Kinski versus Vicario. And I think they gave the start to Kinski ahead of Vicario in this game. Don't imagine he'll do that against Bayern Munich, but I don't know. That's the one thing in the team which I have no idea which way it's going to go at the moment, because you'd imagine that Vicario is number one, but there's definitely been a few hints, and particularly of the team yesterday and the way that he played at Brentford, that maybe Kinski, maybe that's not so clear cut. Maybe Kinski might have a shot.
Absolutely. That's a good shout, Billy. And I think it's actually a lot closer than maybe people think, although I do agree that Vicario is probably the number one. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I wish we could just join the two together. We could have Vicario's shot-stopping ability and Kinski's distribution and just on-the-ball stuff. It'd be an unreal goalkeeper, and I think probably the best in the world. One that's certainly up there with the very best anyway. But hey-ho, it's two strong goalkeepers. I won't complain. But Billy, can I stick with you? Were you impressed with how Danso stepped into midfield and won the ball back for this goal? Because we often were vulnerable from transitions last year, but we've exploited this transition in this game.
Yeah, and there was another. I can't remember exactly what it was. There was a couple of chances. A lot of the chances that we created came out of transitions, and I think that is a symptom of a Thomas Frank team. I think we're going to see that a lot, as you know, mentioned already. Panini in this podcast is going to be really good for that. Kudos is really good at winning the ball as well. I think we're going to press. You know, we're going to try and win those midfield duels and then start again. But yeah, it's a really, really good transition. Dan, who I've been impressed with since he joined. Really, I think we're going to see it a lot under Thomas Frank.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Billy, for that one. Simon, can I come to you? Sticking with kind of the subject of the first goal, do you think we'll start games quicker this season than maybe we did last season under Ange? Obviously, Thomas Frank's record at Brentford, they had a period, didn't they, where they kept scoring in the first minute of games and they kept scoring in the first 10-minute of games. So are you maybe happy that we're starting earlier in games, getting the first goal? Do you think it will continue?
I didn't watch the game, I have to be honest, but I will say something that I have noticed, and I think it's kind of funny, is that we've gone from being this team that, as Billy puts it, and I would put it too, a lot of other fans and pundits have talked about us being easy to play against when we're under Ange, and going from that to the total opposite again, to being a team that I think is going to be really hard to play against. It's going to be it's just one of those whiplash moments that we see sometimes when we go from one era to another. So we've gone from being a team that scores a lot but is easy to play against to being a team that it's going to be hard to play against but doesn't score a lot. At least if you look at the games we've seen these past couple of weeks. So I do think that we're going to be one of those teams that have a lot of 1-1, 1-0 games, at least in the beginning. And I'm guessing we're going to talk about it more because in terms of what we're going to see come up in the transfer window, what we need, because I do feel like we have a problem with creativity, but I'm guessing we're going to get to that soon. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to be one of those teams that score late or if we concede late or if we score first, what it is going to be. But I do think it's going to be a team that's more defensively solid. It seems like a real priority, and it's going to have to work on, how to make us, score a lot of goals. Because you also have to remember, Son had a bad season last season, but he scored 10 and had 10 assists. So that's 20 GA that going out the window. So we have to replace that in some way. So now we don't have Madison, we have Kulusevski. So it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle if we don't see one of our players might unexpectedly explode. So
indeed, thank you, Simon. Carl, can I come to you? Second goal of the game went to Newcastle in the 37th minute through Harvey Barnes. I mean, firstly, I think it was a really good goal, wasn't it? There's not much maybe that Porro could do.
Yeah, I mean, as for the finish, I don't think you could really blame Kinski for that. It was you would have expected him to whip it far corner, but instead he's just drilled it in off the post at Kinski's near post. He couldn't really do too much about it. I thought that Porro maybe could have got out to him a little bit quicker because we knew where Harvey Barnes is going, right? Like you know what type of player he is, where he likes to get the ball, kind of drift inside, cut in and shoot. I think he could have maybe done a little bit more to force him out wide, maybe onto his weaker foot rather than letting him get onto his right. But I'm not going to really look too much into it because we were caught out in transition in the midfield. I think we were a bit. They knocked it around Sarr and Gray maybe a bit too easily. But that's where Palhinha will come in. Obviously, Palhinha didn't play, but that's where Palhinha would come in, who could maybe sniff out those passing lines and intercept the ball. Like I said earlier, and how practically every Spurs fan has said, we don't really have that kind of type of midfielder. Maybe Sarr, but Palhinha is. That's his bread and butter. You know what I mean. So yeah.
No, I agree with you. Thank you. Can I stick with you, Carl? Because I'm interested in what you're saying. Do you think Kinski will be disappointed to be beat at the near post? Because that's what the likes of commentators, including even Alistair Gold, was actually I got the notification because I wasn't watching the game at the time. That's how I found out about the goal. He said that he thinks Kinski will be disappointed. Is that slightly harsh?
I think it's one of them where you need to kind of take context into account. If it was he was nearly outside of the box, he's drilled it in off the post. It wasn't like it was relatively close to Kinski. It has literally just went in, and he hit it with so much power. Like, I think from just hearing Alistair Gold saying, "Oh, he should have done better," or whoever has said that he should have done better to not be beaten by his near post, I think that automatically puts in your minds that like it was quite a relatively savable shot. But if you actually watch the goal, you'd probably go, you know what, fair enough, Barnes. Like that, it was a good finish. It was a nice run. It was a good finish.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say as well, a typical Harvey Barnes goal, cutting in and bending it. That's what he does. His absolute best. If you look at his, well, I suppose I'll say prime. They might be a bit harsh on him. He's still got probably a lot to give, but he's best days in the Leicestershire anyway. That's what he done best. Chris, do you think Kinski showed off his good distribution in this game? Because there's a couple of times balls over the top that were either perfect or nearly puts him behind.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on the goalkeeper one, to be honest. I agree with you, Harry. I think we need to merge them together into some sort of super keeper. But I'm not really a Vicario fan, but the more I see of Kinski, the more I think we've got to play Vicario, to be honest. I also agree with Kyle. I think it's really harsh, actually, the criticism of him for the goal. When we say beaten at the near post, like normally you're thinking about a really tight angle, right, where the keeper's got, but it was relatively central. And I also agree that's the side that Porro should be blocking, really. You're expecting him to whip it in the far post. So I got a lot of sympathy for him. The thing with Kinski, I don't think he's quite at the level, if I'm honest, but he's also very young. So I think he's got lots of room to improve. Whereas Vicario is about 29. So I don't see it that likely when we're saying with Vicario, is he going to suddenly improve how he is with his feet? Is he suddenly going to become a keeper that can command his box? I don't think he is. Vicario is what he is, I think, at this age. But I'd probably rather edge to him right now than, I mean, ultimately, I think we need a new goalkeeper personally, but it's not the biggest issue in the team. Like Vicario, I'm not his biggest fan, but he's not a disaster either. So Kinski, we did okay, but I think he's got a bigger Rick in him probably than Vicario. I mean, I remember like the game at Villa. I went to that match, and it's just, I mean, he's had a few where his shot stopping, I think, is quite considerably weaker than Vicario. And believe me, if you've heard me talk about Vicario on any other stream, you'll know I'm absolutely not his biggest fan. So, but I do think he's a better keeper right now than Kinski. But which also actually provides another problem, because if we do go with Vicario, how's Kinski going to get game time to develop? That's going to be tricky. I wouldn't want to see him just sat on the bench.
Well, do you give him the cup competitions though? Do you say to him, look, you have some games in the Champions League, or in particular like the League Cup and FA Cup?
That's going to be so the League Cup's fine. FA Cup doesn't start till the new year for us, right? Champions League's a really tricky one. I think you kind of play. For the most part, we're going to be playing a lot stronger teams than we did last season. We're probably going to have a couple of games against teams of a similar level from pot 4. You could do that, but you're on a slight hiding to nothing if you do that, because if we accept we're probably not likely to get too many points from the teams in pot 1, if we're playing a Real Madrid and a Bayern Munich or PSG, then the pressure becomes on when we're playing the lower teams from the lower pots, because you need the points. So is that the time to do a bit of rotation? Because if you don't win those games, you are going to get absolutely criticised, right? For hindsight's a wonderful thing. Why didn't he play his strongest team? Because we need to win. You that decision is only validated once you know the result, which is, unfortunately, you don't know it when you're making the decision. So I also think it's a similar issue for a number of our players, by the way. Like, how is Archie Gray going to get minutes this season? It worries me for a few players.
Well, the beauty of being able to want to compete anyway on all 4 fronts, having the Champions League I don't worry about players. I know what you mean. It's a tough competition, and you won't get that many minutes.
We're not playing Karabag or those sort of teams.
No, I suppose so. But we've been playing a lot of games. We could be playing up to like 50, 55 games, and we're already getting an injury crisis before the season started. I'd argue is certainly getting a few out. That is, Can
I blame Anne for these injuries? Am I allowed to do that? No.
No, no. We're moving on from Ange, I'm afraid. I don't know who's going to get the blame for that one. I mean, what's going on at the medical team? I mean, it's a completely different medical team, apparently. Or is it? Yeah. Who knows? I thought it was an April Fool's when I heard about Madison's injury, which we will get on to, but sadly, it was not. April Fool's did not come late. It come on time this year. Billy, can I ask you about Joelinton? Firstly, I want to ask you, do you think we struggled to deal with his height in this game? He had a couple of chances. He's acting almost like a striker for them, where he used to play. Obviously, it didn't work out for him. But it's a couple of times he won the ball ahead of Porro, but he didn't really lead to anything.
Yeah, and I thought that was a sort of story of the game. Really, it was like a Premier League game. It wasn't like a friendly. It was definitely played with the intensity of the Premier League game, which I think is good in some ways because you really want to test yourself, especially with PSG coming up in just over a week, 2 weeks for us. A week for us, sorry. So it's good to have that kind of test, and they have a few players like that. Joelinton, Guimaraes was really good as well, getting involved in lots of battles all over the pitch, especially with Romero. So it's a really, really good test, and I did think. I thought, I mean, particularly in comparison with the Arsenal game, I think Newcastle looks a lot more dangerous towards us than Arsenal did actually over the course of 2 games. They were sort of getting us at will at some periods, particularly in the first half. We had good spells of play as well, but the physicality we did struggle with a little bit. But that is always kind of the case when you play Newcastle, just not usually in a friendly.
No, that's true. That's very true. Can I also ask you, Billy, about that moment that Gray had with Joelinton? I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, what's that about? I mean, catches great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think Joelinton's one of those players that you hate playing against him, but if he was your player, you kind of love it, wouldn't you? But yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, really.
Yeah, well said. Kyle, how did Archie Gray play? I think you were the one who mentioned Gray. I mean, he was good, wasn't he, in this game?
From the clips I saw of him, he looks like it was probably one of his best performances of pre-season, or in a Spurs shirt as well. Again, it's hard to judge because obviously he spent quite a lot of time last year playing along a really disjointed back line, and the fact that he looks like the better centre back of the pairing out of him and Dragusin at times is. I'm not sure whether it's a compliment to Gray or if it's a massive wake-up call for Dragusin if a 19-year-old midfielder is looking better than you out of position. But he just looked a lot more confident. And I'm sure that's something that Frank is hoping to install into him, considering as well Brentford were the team that we hijacked Archie Gray from. You know, Thomas Franks obviously really likes him as a player and has done for quite a while. And like it's been said on the video so far, he's great at developing young and older players, getting the most out of them. It'll be interesting to see kind of where he falls into the ranks of the midfield ranks, whether he'll get a lot of game time. I'm sure Frank has a plan for him, but yeah, he just looked a lot more like confident, comfortable on the ball. Winning the ball high along with Sarr. Like that's the thing that we've seen quite a bit actually in this preseason so far, is especially Sarr stepping up and really winning the ball quite high. The same with the defenders. So I'm really excited to see how Gray gets on. He's definitely one of the players that I'm most looking forward to seeing play, along with Tell and Vuskovic if he is here, but we never know.
Okay, thank you very much. Simon, can I ask you, so I want to talk about that defence being in line and, kind of doing very well. So I know you said you didn't see the game, but Gordon had a goal disallowed. I thought personally we were very good in keeping our line and playing offside. Not the first time in the game that we've done it. That was the only time that led to a goal. But I'll ask you, suppose, in pre-season in general, to kind of tailor the question. Have you been impressed with our defensive structure and disciplined defending that we've seen so far under Frank?
Yeah, absolutely, very much. I think that's the big positive here. I think we've seen us, and I didn't see the Newcastle game, but just judging by what you guys are saying, and Bill as well, and Kyle and Chris, what I've seen a lot has to do with, choosing when to press, choosing when to defend deep, choosing when to have a mid block, seeing the structure we've had with defending wingers, being the Arsenal game specifically impressed me a lot in terms of knowing how they like to attack a lot down the right flank and doubling up on Saka and later on that younger dude. Defending has been the thing that I've been most, I think, has had the where we've seen the clearest indications about what will be the foundation of this team. So basically, Ange was an attack first kind of coach. This is clearly a coach that is focusing on making sure that we, as he would put it, what was the word? Easy balls, easy goals, or correcting the easy things and defending well has clearly been a focus here. Again, my issues or my worries is more about what will happen in the transfer market, both in terms of who will leave, what will happen with Vucevic, what would happen with Davis, will we bring someone else in, what will happen in the midfield deep. But absolutely, I think we'll be defending really well. So I hope that continues.
Fingers crossed. It's certainly been a good start under Thomas Frank defensively. I want to move on to James Maddison and his injury. So, Chris, can I come back to you with this one to start with you? I mean, it doesn't look or sound good, does it? Thomas Frank confirming it was the same knee that he injured at the end of last season. We all know how that went out for an awfully long time and just come back. And he was seen leaving the mix zone in the stadium on crutches. Do you feel for him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got to. I mean, the only thing is none of us are medical professionals, so we'll just wait and see what the outcome is. But it didn't look very good, did it? Let's be honest. Just the way he went down, how emotional he was. I think footballers generally know when it's serious right there and then, right? Just nothing about it looked good. And Thomas Frank's come out and said it was brutal, I think was the word he used. All the signs are that this is a really bad injury. And if it is, flipping it back to a bit before we were talking about Levy, it's interesting. I think we've got an interesting few weeks for Levy. He's not a stupid guy. So the fact he's come out now in 2 separate interviews and said about winning the league, it's just not credible to get to the end of this window if we don't strengthen from the position we're in now. It doesn't stack up against what he said. He's never said it in 25 years. I know he's sort of claimed that ambition's always been there, but now he's on record. He needs to be judged against that. And when you lose a player like we have with Maddison, Kulusevski out, varying reports on whether it'll be September through to November when he's back, it's going to be interesting to see whether Thomas Frank does get the support that he needs. But we unquestionably need someone in there.
I mean, it's even worse. I don't think Frank's brief, we can fulfill that, being competitive in all 4 competitions as it is right now. We don't have a 10 to speak of, right? That can play.
Yeah, right now. I mean, I love our fan base. How we gas up the young kids, and some people want Donnelly to play, but it's just way beyond. I mean, I'd love it, but I think we're talking about fantasy football if we think Donnelly's going to come in and start bossing games in the Premier League and the Champions League when he's just had a reasonable season at Leyton Orient. I just don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we have a 10. The one player who could play there is Kudus, has played there a lot for West Ham. That might have to be an option.
And
Johnson's an interesting player, right? In the sense of his stats are really good. I think most fans say he doesn't really contribute a lot past that. But we're so devoid right now of goal scoring power, creativity, that maybe that is a solution. If we don't bring someone in, you're going to have to move Kudus, which is a shame. Probably the best winger we've had for a number of years, because Son's more an inside forward than a winger. He's not a tricky sort of take your fullback on kind of guy, which Kudus is. It would be sort of Spursy-ish to sign the best winger we've had for a long time and end up playing him in central midfield. But yeah, I agree with you. We don't have a 10, so I think we need to. No, it's clear to me. We need to go out and get somebody in, whether that's a Grealish on loan, whether it's actually buying somebody. We've got to do something, in my opinion. And if we don't, I think questions do need to be asked against what Levy's now on record of saying his alleged ambition is.
It's a question for a lot of things, I tell you, along with the medical team as well. Absolutely, we'll say that. But I'm just going to throw a big name out here. It's never going to happen, and I accept that. I know that. I'm not stupid. I think Eberechi Eze would be the dream all of a sudden right now. He can play in that 10 and when they're all fit, offer serious competition, and he'll fill that gap, plug that gap for now. But he can also play on that left-hand side, whether it be part of a front three, wherever it may be. He can play as a left winger. So that, for me, is your Son replacement and your Maddison temporary replacement while he's injured in one player. That avoids Daniel Levy signing 2 players. I don't know about you guys, but I'll be happy for us just to sign one attacking player if it's someone of the quality of Eberechi Eze. I'd go, okay, I'm well happy with that. You know, instead of buying 2 players, we buy one. That's a lot better. I think that's the mistake we've made in the past. Eze, just for me, makes so much sense, but I just can't see it happening. We're not an attractive club because of the wage structure.
I don't know if it's that, though. I mean, you know, it seems as though he's got his heart set on Arsenal, but that's not been done either. So something strange is going on there.
It can't be winning trophies. It can't be because they're a nice club. You know, we've seen what's happened with Party and stuff like that. It must be because of the money. A bit of bias.
From what I heard just on social media, and Paul, as we all know, is a pretty good guy when it comes to knowing what's going on inside the club. He claims that Frank doesn't really see it with Eze. Awesome. So if Frank doesn't see it, I mean, I'm with you. I would go for Eze. I think the club is kind of in an issue here where they've shown their hand. They've shown that we're willing to bid 60 million for Morgan Gibbs-White. But I think Eze, as Chris points out, and you point out, Harry, is bound for Arsenal. And Simmons, which is the other guy that we've heard a lot of things about, looks bound for Chelsea. The name that I've seen, pop up now today is Grealish, which makes sense to some extent. Again, I question if he's a Frank type of midfielder. I know Frank is pretty adamant that his midfielder works hard, both defensively and I haven't seen Grealish enough in that 10 role to know how he look, but it does make sense in the sense that he's quality. I know he's good at the 10. He's Premier League proven in many ways. So yeah, but there's not a lot of names out there because they have to have that quality to be able to start in the Champions League game and be one of our star players and one of the players that the game kind of surrounds. So yeah, there's no obvious names popping up right now, but there are names out there that we've been kind of linked to. Yeah. Not a lot excites me.
No, that's fair enough. Carl, can I ask you about a YouTube comment that I've got from Regular J? He says, Eze, a good shout, but don't think it will happen, but you never know. I really want Wissa. What's everyone else thoughts about Wissa? I mean, again, I can't see it happening. Well, he's definitely going to leave Brentford. He's throwing his toys out the pram. But I agree with what actually Chris said on the panel tonight in the chat himself, that it's not going to probably happen unless Richarlison leaves.
Sorry, did you ask me this question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the price that they're after for him, they're wanting 40 to 50 million. I think, especially given his age, I would say that if people have a problem with the Palhinha signing, then they should definitely have a problem with that signing because A, Palhinha is cheaper and offers a profile that we don't currently have. And B, again, I don't think Wissa long term is the solution. If you had it my way, I would probably not look at a left-sided player and look at getting a quality 10 and just trust in Tell and Odebear. Odebear has had a good pre-season. He's went quite under the radar. Not many people have spoken about him. But Odebear has had a really good pre-season. I just can't warm to the idea of Wissa. I get that he's worked with Thomas Frank before and he's got him firing, but just the age and the asking price that they're wanting, it just really puts me off. Because if they're wanting 40 to 50 million, you might as well spend an extra 20 on Eze, who again can play both positions. Although actually, I think it might have been said that his release clause has ended now, so it might end up being a bit more expensive. But I just don't like the idea of a Whistler signing.
Fair enough. Kyle, a slightly different question for you. Going back to that number 10 conversation, would you say that now number 10 is an absolute priority? It's a must before the window closes. If it wasn't already, now Maddison's out injured.
Yeah, it's a must. But the only thing is, I'm not sure if it's just because I'm having a bit of my brain's lagging. The 10 market at the moment doesn't really seem that great. There's not really many players that are kind of up for sale or like realistic signings. I think we really missed out on Ryan Cherky, who went to City. I think that I can't believe we didn't act quicker on that, because for the price that they were asking and the footballer he is, I'm gutted about that signing. So I think a 10 is an absolute must, because they're saying that Kulusevski is going to be injured near December, January time. So a good couple of months. And Maddison, by the looks of it, you'd obviously have to assume you'd assume the worst, hope for the best. But I've got a really bad feeling that is a season ending, probably an ACL. I can't be dealing with a Bentancur, Sarr, and I don't know, Basuma.
And Kulusevski, I mean, what kind of shape is he going to come back in?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same with Maddison. Even if it's not the ACL, you don't know what kind of shape he's coming back in. And Maddison hasn't been fit for 2 full seasons, so we know he's going to be out for a number of games. So yeah.
Because as well, like with Kulusevski, when he was injured before and came back, there was a real noticeable drop off. And like you know, it's fair enough. He was injured for a fair bit, and even before his injury, he had been ran into the ground. So we could see a noticeable drop off on his form. So we have to assume that it will be the same scenario when he comes back from this injury, where he's been out for 3 times the amount of time, 3-4 times the amount of time.
Okay. Before we get back to finishing the Newcastle review, just want to announce a bit of breaking news since we come on air. Tottenham Hotspur took to X to say that Tyrese Hall has joined Notts County on loan for the 2025-26 campaign. They also wanted to say, go smash it, Tyrese. Carl, can I come back to you to start with this? What do you make of this? I mean, it felt, kind of inevitable that he would go on loan. Do you think this could be a good move for him?
I mean, if it's anything to go by with the Abbott loan move there, it all points into that it will be a good loan move. There's been a lot of talk about Hull the last couple of seasons, saying that he's going to break into the first team. We'll see him feature a lot more, and he never really has. So it will be nice to actually see him get some minutes. Out on loan at a club where we now have a history of players going there and having a really good loan coming back. And Frank's been really impressed by Abbott by what all the reports are saying about him. So yeah, happy for him. I hope he does well.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Anything to add? I mean, it's very fresh news.
Just that I'm really excited about him. I think it's the type of defensive midfielder that we actually need when it comes to progressing the ball and passing and stuff like that. So I hope he gets a lot of playing time. I hope he shows his best side, and I hope he comes back ready to contribute to the first team.
Just want to answer a YouTube comment. Big up, Jonathan Dyer. I've just seen you've joined. He's asking our thoughts on the Daniel Levy interview. We spent a big part of the podcast discussing it. So if you go back to around the start, around the half an hour point, we did spend quite a lot of time, and we actually unpicked pretty much every quote that Daniel Levy said in the interview and went into it in great detail, proper analysis. So if you can go back and check that out, reminder you can rewind at any point, or after we're finished here, you can go back as you can on any major podcast platform. So Jonathan, please check that out and let us know your thoughts. And if you reply in the comments, and it's after we finish going live on YouTube, I'll absolutely reply to you a little bit later. So I'm very interested to hear from you. Thank you. But let's go back to the Newcastle game. I've got to bring it up, that 1v1. I mean, how's that not good in? Chris, I mean, I'm all for giving him a chance. And there's a lot of people that aren't happy, but are surprised maybe that we've signed him. And I want them to prove him wrong, although I don't have a necessarily strong opinion about it. But that's not going to help his case. He's just got to finish his dinner, isn't he, in that situation?
Yeah, football's changed a lot. I don't think players go through one-on-one as much as I think they did when I was young. I got like visions of Shearer being put through. I guess defenses start deeper because you play out from the back. There's not the kind of pushing up loads and the goalkeeper kicking it long like there was in my day. But Tell, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see something that gives me some optimism as to why this guy got raved about. I think there's very little evidence in it from when he was in a Bayern shirt, and there's pretty much zero evidence of it since he's joined Spurs. I've been super disappointed in him. And the worrying thing for me is I don't even see it. I know some people say I can see it. I can't see it. I don't even see the little flashes, the moments where I think, oh, maybe you could develop that. And what have we paid all in all? About 45 million with a 10 million loan fee and then whatever the final transfer fee was. I feel like we've massively overpaid. It's a very Tottenham thing to do for these young players. But God, I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. The more I watch him, the more concerned I get that I can't see this guy making it for us. But it is, I will qualify that a little bit with he's still obviously very young. He's only 6 months into a new country, really, isn't he? So you've got to give him, like, there are lots of players who have struggled for a year and then come good. Son being one. So I'm not going to write him off, but I'll be lying if I said I wasn't hugely concerned about Tell.
I think it's important to remember he's 20 years old, so he's in that bracket, to me at least, with Gray and Bergwall, more than he is with. And I think it's something interesting. Thomas said, like this week, I don't know if you guys saw that, but he had these quotes about the young players and about Gray and Sarr. To him, it sounded like he thought Sarr was a little bit ahead of Bergwall and Gray. Was I think a lot of fans have probably the view of Bergwall being the one that's most ready. But I think like Frank comes in with a fresh perspective and probably puts a lot of stock in Premier League experience and that whole quote was about experience is not about age, and he was talking about Palhinha, like him being 30 is not why he's experienced. Kudus is also experienced, and he's only 24, so it's more about how much you played and what you've seen and what you've achieved in the game. And I think Tell is probably, because I totally understand what you're saying, Chris. I think there's a lot of hype, but he's not shown it at Spurs. Like that, he hasn't met that expectations around the hype. But if you watched him, like I did in Bayern, he scored every time he was on the pitch. So that's where that valuation comes from. But I think, he's far away from being even where Son was when he arrived at Spurs. So I actually think like Odeberg is probably going to be the one that Frank probably leans on more, and then I think he's going to use Gray, Bergwall, Tell a little bit more sparingly. And I think that's another reason why we need attacking additions. I think looking at what we've lost with Son, looking at the recent the injuries that Richarlison has had these last couple of years, looking at Solanke being injured, looking at Kulusevski being out, looking at Madison being out, you start to wonder where are the goals going to come from, right? Where are the consistent performances going to come from in terms of attacking positions? So yeah, that worries me a little bit, and it also worries me because we haven't really got a clear picture of what's going to happen with the squad, right? We don't know who's leaving. Is Richarlison leaving, and Vista coming in, or Richarlison, here to stay? Is Bissouma leaving, or is he staying? Is Bentancur leaving, or is he staying? So Davis. So we have a lot of Pinsky. I saw the other day something about a loan, and you guys talked about if he's going to stay or if he needs to go out and play. So I think we have a lot of question marks around this squad.
Yeah, I think a lot would agree with you on that. Thank you, Simon. Kyle, last thing kind of on the game, before I get like a general overview around the match, did you think Basuma looked better in this game? That's one of the things I wrote down in my notes. He kept winning the ball back a couple of times. I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions here because I think he's a hot and cold player, but he looked better in this game. Is that fair to say, or do you have a different view?
He looked better in this game, but Basuma's problem is that he has games where he is really good, followed by 7-8 games where he is abysmal. And that's been his problem his entire time he's been at Tottenham. He'll have a few really good games where you're like, you know what, Basuma bossed the midfield. He was unplayable today, but he just doesn't do it enough. And that surely as a defender, for example, Romero, Van der Ven, Porro, like particularly Porro, Romero played a lot of games last year. Surely you will pick up on that Basuma, who is meant to be protecting you just above them, is a very hot or cold player. And you never really know what version of Basuma you'll get on that day. And that can't fill the back line with much confidence. And as a fan as well, watching, I'm always like, oh God, you know, what are we going to get from Basuma today? Is he going to be world class? Is he going to be absolutely awful? And so, to be fair, I just think no matter how well he does in pre-season, we can't base opinions now off of his pre-season. He's had more than enough time. He's worked under multiple managers now. And he's just not showing it. I think he needs to be something.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, majority will agree with you on that one. Kyle, before I move on from you, man of the match in this game, do you have one?
I would probably go, from what I saw, I would probably either go Gray or Sarr. Just because, again, Sarr in particular was just everywhere. He's been pressing really high from the clips that I've seen and winning the ball back. He looks like a completely different player than what he was last season. There was quite a lot of question marks surrounding him as to whether, you know, his like trajectory was on track or not, if he'd kind of his development had kind of stagnated a tiny bit. There was talks about him potentially even needing a loan move. But if this pre-season is anything to go by under Thomas Frank, then he can be a huge booster. So I'd probably say that Sarr just pips Gray.
Good shout. Chris, who's your man of the match?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't disagree. Sarr is a player to this point I wasn't convinced by. I didn't quite know what his biggest strength. I'm always a little hesitant with the players who, when you say what's their biggest strength, then the response is something that's not about their ability. So like Solanke, his work rate, or Sarr, his how he gets around the pitch. I'm like, well, brilliant, but what's he like actually on the ball? And I think Sarr's a little unconvincing. I'm never quite sure what he's supposed to be. Is he attacking midfielder? I'm never really sure. But having said all of that, and for all my opinions on any player, I'm desperate always to be proven wrong. I'm not going to go overboard and say he's completely convinced me from 2 games in pre-season, but he's looked an absolute world apart from what he was previously. Not that he was a terrible player before. I just kind of think he's a bit of a kind of nothing player. Really good to bring on, I think, if you're trying to defend the lead, because he's just going to go and cause a nuisance and close everybody down. That was great. To go and sort of take charge of a game from the beginning, I never really seen it. But I think he's been really very good in both of these 2 games. He's been, for me, the outstanding performer of our pre-season so far. That doesn't mean it will translate to when it gets competitive, but fingers crossed. But yeah, I'd go with Sarr. But yeah, I mean, just generally, it wasn't I can't remember whether it was Kyle or it might have been Billy who said, I don't think we looked as good as we did against Arsenal, but it's so early days for Frank. But I think you can see evidence there of shape and what we're trying to achieve, which gives me some some hope. It's certainly, again, not going to try and turn it into an Ange debate, but I think we probably all agree, whether you're Ange fans or not, that it looks a lot less chaotic, which for me is a very big plus. And I think you'll see players like Sarr and Basuma, if he stays, I think you'll see an improved version of them under Frank, because playing central midfield under Frank was difficult when we lost the ball, right? We tended not to really have a central midfield, and it was just everybody leg it back like mental. I don't think we'll see that. We'll see more structure, and I think you'll see a better version of Basuma if he stays, but we'll see.
So let's hope so. Fingers crossed. Has anyone got anything to add on that game before we move on to a quick Bayern preview? What do you reckon? No? No comments, that's fine. No worries. We'll move on now to Bayern. Simon, I'll start with you. How do you feel about this game being played over in Germany as well?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see Palina. Hope he starts. It's going to be interesting to see Kane play against us. I do think it's going to be a tough game. I'm guessing they will have most of the possession, and with us, this will be another game where we defend for our lives. I do wonder if he is going to start to kind of show his hand a little bit more, maybe play like a team that you actually think is our strongest.
Yep.
I have questions around Solanke. Is he going to be back? Let's hope so. I wonder what his solution is for the 10 role. I mean, I know I didn't watch the game, but I know he starts Sarr at the 10, right? I don't think that's something he actually think is a solution. I think I have mostly, questions about, what players are going to be fit, how far along are we? I know he thinks we have a lot of things that we need to improve on. I'm guessing, especially like in the attacking phase and stuff like that, I think we defended well. It's going to be interesting, but the transfer window is so it's looming. I think it's going to be the thing I think about the most, even around that game.
100%. Absolutely. Thank you. Chris, anyone you want to see in this game on Thursday against Bayern?
Oh, I'd love to see Palhinha, but I'm with Simon. I think this is the game now where we need to go with whatever he thinks our strongest lineup is. This is our last friendly, right? The next one, I think PSG is a glorified friendly, really, but there is a trophy up for grabs at the end of it. So I'd expect us to go strong. I do actually quite like the strength of the teams we played in pre-season. I think that's more meaningful than going to play, pick any team you like, Grasshoppers, Zurich or something. I
like that, and I've likely played more games, like in pre-season than we've done before.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the travel, but that is the modern football, isn't it? So that's every team does it now. I can't be convinced that puts them in the best possible shape for the start of the season, but I do accept football's a commercial venture as well. I just want to see us go strong. I want to see us build on what we've done so far, and that's the important thing, I think. And we need to temper our expectations slightly. Doesn't matter who the manager is, but he's not been here that long, so it's a bit unrealistic to suddenly expect come Burnley everything's going to be in place and everyone's going to understand the system perfectly. That's not going to be the case. But as long as the trajectory is there and you continue to see improvements on what we've done so far, that's all I'm asking for. I don't really care what the score is. I'm far more concerned with, do we look as though we're a team, and do we look like we might have a chance in the league, not to win it, obviously, but that we're going to perform better going forward when the league season kicks off. But it will be what a great game. Like, they've got some quality players, right? Let's be honest, they're a better team than us if we both play to our potential. But I always think that's a good thing, like a weird analogy. But whenever I play or used to play for fun, pool, snooker, darts, I always wanted to play players who were better than me, right? Because it pushes you to do better. There's no point playing someone that you know you can beat, because it's not going to drive you to perform to the best of your ability. So I'm looking forward to the game. Should be really good, and I'll be watching it during work. It's about 12:30 kickoff, so I'll be busy pretending I'm working while the game's on.
Pretending I'm working. Absolutely love that. For the Bayern game, I believe Spurs play. Spurs are offering, should I say, via Spurs play 50% off or something. So they must have problems with people not watching it, and maybe other ways.
Spurs plays an absolute rip-off, and I'm not advocating people go and have fire sticks because it's not strictly legal, but I'll be watching it on mine. But there you
go. Say no more. Yeah, I've played it. I must admit, I think I really want to see this Bayern game. I always think the other games I didn't want to necessarily for Wickham, Luton, because I just think there's going to be so many changes. You're not really going to get that much out of that. It's these core games, Bayern, PSG, you could argue Newcastle, where we get closer and closer to the season, and we really get to see the new signings, players come back from injury, and really closer to what we can expect for the season. That's when I'm really interested, not the what I call trial and error of the first part of pre-season. Yep. But Kyle, anyone you want to see in this game? Pellegrini is the obvious one. I'm sure he'll play some part in it, even off the bench, maybe.
Yeah, Pellegrini, just see what he's about. If he can kind of get back to start to show signs of getting back to his best of when he was at Fulham. I would like to see Vuskovic play, and a big part of that as well is seeing all of these injuries. I've just got the worst feeling that Van der Ven's hamstring is just going to just tear apart in this game, and we're going to be without Van der Ven for the first 2 months of the season. So I'm hoping we see Vuskovic, and then Van der Ven for maybe, I don't know, a half maybe. I don't want him playing a lot of football because he just does frighten me now. How we've seen his injury record since joining us. He just does scare me every now and then. But I'd like to see Vuskovic as well, because depending on how well he does there, will kind of indicate as to whether he needs that loan or not. I think if he has a good game against Bayern, especially at his age and on as little time as what he's had at the club, it will really show this is a solid squad option going forward. So Vuskovic is who I'd want to see. Very
good shout. I like that one. Thank you. Let's go through now and get all of your score predictions before we wrap up for this episode, which has been a long one. So thank you all for your patience. As always with Tottenham during the transfer window, there is so much to discuss. It started off as just a Newcastle preview. Then I thought, might as well preview Bayern. And then we got the Pellegrini news, the Son news, Mikey Moore news. Then we got Tyrese Hall news. And we got Daniel Levy's interview, which no one knew was going to happen until yesterday. So as always with Tottenham, a quick one turns into a long one. But I don't mind. It's been a good one. But let's go through the panel in no particular order and get your score predictions. Chris, let's start with you. Are you going to be positive for once?
Always positive, sort of, maybe. I just don't care, really, because it's a pre-season. It's also the problem with the pre-seasons is it's impossible to know what's going to happen, right? And 60 minutes in, we might all just see 11 substitutions for each team and just a load of kids playing. So I think it makes it really hard to know. They're slightly earlier in their, later in their pre-season than us. Depends which way you look at it. They haven't had as many games as us in their pre-season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really not fussed. I'm just going to pick out a 2-2 draw. See a Harry Kane goal. That'd be interesting. Will he celebrate? Nice. You can just imagine, even if he does the slightest celebration, Spurs Twitter will be in meltdown if that happens. But 2-2, I don't know. And it could be anything. 2-2, why not?
2-2, that's positive for you. I'll take that. I think that's okay.
you probably would have said it. If I'd have said just a narrow 1-0 defeat, you probably would have gone, well, that's quite positive for you, Chris.
Yes, I would have. Thank you, though. Kyle, the chorus rely on you for a bit of optimism.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not able to give that, to be honest. I'm going to go 2-1 to Bayern. Kane and Coman scoring, and I think for us, I'm going to say Odegaard.
Okay, fair enough. As I said, honesty is the best policy, but Simon, I can always rely on you. Definitely the positivity. I'm 100% confident he says that you're going to back Tottenham to at least get a draw from this. Go on, give me your score prediction.
So I think it's hard to not concede against Diaz, Ulis, and Kane. So we'll concede one, but their defense isn't that good either. So let's say we'll score 1-2. So 1-1. Go.
1-1. I'll take that. What do I think? I mean, I've got to back up now, saying be positive. Can I be positive? Probably not. Let's have a think. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to match you, Chris, on that one. I think I totally agree with what you're saying as well, Simon, in terms of Bayern's attacking firepower, if you like, and quality. Although I think we're good at defending, I think they'll score a couple. But as you said, leaky defence, and hopefully we can cause some problems going forward. Exploit those transitions again. Look for key players like Kudus, and let's hope we can get something from it. But as Chris says, the result really doesn't matter. It is all about the performance. But that does wrap us up nicely for this week's episode. Does anyone have anything to say on any topic to do with Tottenham before we wrap up?
Ange out.
Okay, he's no longer the manager, so you won't need to worry about those conversations. That is one thing I'm delighted to say. But no, thank you all for being part of this. Thank you to everyone who's watching, listening live on YouTube or after on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're listening on a major podcast platform. Drop us a follow, 5-star review. Also, let us know where you're listening from, because a lot of you do around the world. So big up to each and every single one of you. Let's go through the panel now and see where you can find them across social media to support their amazing work. We'll start chronologically around the panel, and we'll go with Kyle first. Kyle, again, remind people what you do. Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you as well?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me, H. My Twitter handle is just below Kyle Freegard. Me and a few other lads have just started a new podcast, the host being Henry Swain, who has been on here a few times already.
Yeah.
It's called More of a Six. He's not a 10, he's not an 8, he's more of a 6. So yeah, give that page a follow.
Yeah, honestly, guys, please give that a follow. I mean, we've got very proud that Kyle's on there. Obviously, a big part of this podcast. It's always great to have him on, to check that out, and have a lot of time for Henry Swain, the host himself. Top guy, always comes on to talk Crystal Palace, and I love his positivity he brings, and it's really interesting to listen to. So yeah, that podcast has my full support. So best of luck with it, mate. And if you ever need anyone, I'll absolutely be available. So thank you for plugging that. Do check it out, guys. And Simon as well, thank you very much for coming on. Always interesting to hear what you have to say. Again, remind people what you do. Come on, pick yourself up. This is your opportunity. Don't talk it down like you usually do. And where can people find you on the socials?
I got nothing going on. You'll find me on Twitter, Simon Yemane, at Simon Yemane. Yemane spelling Yemane. You'll find me here on Harry's podcast every other week, something like that. And a recommendation, go and watch the second season of Wolf Hall. It's a great show about an old king. And listen to the new Neptune's album. That's good too. Yeah.
Okay. Keep up the good work, and thanks for coming on. I really enjoy you. I know you don't maybe see it as a big thing as it is, but I think myself and a lot of the fan base enjoy your analysis, and you dive deep into it. We're talking about threads that have got 11, 12 parts to it. It's a big thing that you do, and it's very good.
It's a sickness I have. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. Thank you very much. Chris, thanks for coming on. Talk about some of the plays down, what they do. I mean, please tell people, and I'm hoping you will, a little bit about your refereeing background again as well, people, where they can follow you on the socials.
I mean, I ruined many a game over about a 14-year refereeing career. But then, I did 5 years working in referee training and education, right from training 14-year-olds, which is the youngest you can qualify, through to trying to help people at the top end of the game. The few of the lads that I trained are in the Football League now. One of them refereed the League Two playoff final at the end of last season. I'm very hopeful that he will make the Premier League at some point. He's only about 31. He's a lad called Will Finney. So I'm not responsible for every mistake Will Finney makes on the refereeing pitch, but I'll try and take the credit for the successes, though. But we'll see how he goes. I don't do it anymore, but still very involved with any discussions on anything to do with refereeing. Joe Linton's wasn't a sending off, by the way, but we won't get into that now.
Should have asked you about that, actually.
I just talk about it on Twitter mainly, just trying to educate people a little bit, really. People are so partisan, aren't they? It's natural. Football's a very passionate, emotional game. And I try to strip that away and go, actually, if you don't look at it through that lens and try and educate people as to why referees make certain decisions, can't always defend them when they're terrible. But that's mainly on Twitter. Last season, I was on with Marlon and Spurs Kings once a week looking at VAR stuff. I don't know if that might change a little bit. I think there will be something. So that will probably kick off in a couple of weeks. I'm on with you again next week after the Bayern game. And at some point next week, I'm very likely, I think, to go on Football Heritage TV with Sava, for anyone who knows him, to talk about, this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if anyone watches Sava, they'll probably know that he likes his bets and he talks about his ACCA every week. That's my industry. Now what I do every day is work in trading and betting. So we're probably going to look at we are looking at doing a show where we try and help people a little bit to understand what should you bet on and what shouldn't you. Obviously, Harry, you shouldn't bet on anything at all because you're not old enough.
That's right.
For anyone who betting's not for them for religious, feel free to ignore it completely. But if anyone's got any interest in it, you can look out for that. I'll probably be next week at some point.
Nicely saved.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you very much.
Not forcing anyone to do it. If it's your thing, it's your thing. If it's not, happy days.
We stick with the refereeing promotion. Thank you very much, Chris, for coming on.
Can I just say that as a referee and a bookmaker, I'm possibly the least popular person on YouTube, maybe.
Yeah. Harsh, but maybe fair. I guess we'll see. But no, thank you very much for coming on. For people who don't know, there's now 2 podcasts a week as we go into the new season. I want it to be a big season for Tottenham, and I want it to be a big season as well for the channel. So 2 podcasts a week every Monday and Thursday night. Otherwise, we'll be literally here for all night. If it's 2 hours, how long would it be if we just had one a week? That's all I'm going to say. But no, thank you very much. Check out our sponsor in the Kitman. We are actively looking for new sponsors, new partners, couple of deals in the pipeline. So keep your eyes peeled because that could be quite exciting. So no, big thanks to our current sponsor and long-term sponsor as well in the Kitman. They do some fantastic merchandise, former player memorabilia. So we look forward to a lot of giveaways, including a lot of Tottenham stuff. And we're talking proper valuable stuff they do for good prices and lots of giveaways as well. So make sure to check that out. But you know who I am. Unfortunately, Harry Scarfe. Please follow me at Harry Scarfe32 across all socials. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow all of these guys across the socials. And for now, a massive come on you Spurs.